back now with the live view of that Soyuz rocket. Just reiterating that final scene you saw there. If you want to follow Chris in his mission, as he's spending about 6 months on board the International Space Station, get an inside look at what it's like to live, work in space. Follow him on Instagram. He's at astro_seal. But just with a quick check-in, we are 17 minutes 40 seconds away from today's launch. Let's take a couple more minutes now and answer a few more of your Ask NASA questions. Again, if you have any, use the hashtag AskNASA, send them in, and we will go through them. First off, we have one from Andrew Borger, who asked a question about the training that they've gone through. How long have they been waiting for this day? And also, how much thrust has this rocket let out? Crews for the space station typically train for about 2 years, and that's to get familiarization on all of the systems on board the International Space Station that they'll be interacting with, whether they're fixing it, working on experiments, if they're doing spacewalks. There's just a lot of knowledge to try and gather and train, and it takes about 2 years to do that. They're also going through spacecraft-specific training, so this crew had to train on the Soyuz spacecraft systems, be able to respond in the event of an emergency, be able to fly the vehicle if you're the Soyuz commander or the backup, and they actually do final exams. It's almost like going back to college for a lot of these crew members. So about 2 years of training. And then how much thrust does the rocket let out? The first stage of this Soyuz spacecraft delivers about 930,000 pounds of thrust. And then our next one comes from Robert Guzman, who asked, when the astronauts come back to Earth, is their immune system weakened by their stay in space? It's a really interesting question, and that's something that we actually have a lot of different research studies taking place. The human body adapts extremely quickly to new environments. It's both a blessing and a curse with stuff like spaceflight. It starts to affect a lot of things like bones, muscles, and even immune systems in these astronauts. They've seen that it can actually affect your immune system. It can even weaken your immune system a little bit. And that's just one of the many things that we have to really understand as we look to not only send humans further than we've ever gone before, going forward to the moon and eventually onto Mars, just to keep people safe when they're in space, but also very importantly when they come home. We've also found that a lot of stuff that happens to your body when you're on the space station has a lot of parallels for ailments here on Earth. A lot of things that happen to your body, like bone wasting and muscle loss and things of that nature, mimic a lot of the effects of aging. And so we're able to use these astronauts, and while we're trying to really understand what happens to them while they're in outer space and how to best take care of them, a lot of those lessons can actually translate to making life better for humans back down here on the ground. We're going to keep moving on, but again, keep sending those questions in. We'll be doing a whole bunch later today when we get to the docking show, so just keep using that hashtag AskNASA. And we've talked about it a couple of times here today. Spaceflight is all about traditions, and in keeping with that, every single expedition mission, just like every NASA program, every crew is given their very own patch with a unique design that helps to commemorate their mission and their crew members. And this is a look at the Expedition 63 patch. It's definitely one of my personal favorites. It's a very cool, interesting looking one. It's an intersection of both the past and the beginning of a new dawn in human spaceflight. As we not only continue to stay on board the station, we're about to commemorate 20 years of continuous flight, but also look at putting humans once more on the moon and then getting ready to not too far after, head on to Mars. 13 of the stars in the patch along the top commemorate the Apollo 13th, which is celebrating its 50th anniversary during Expedition 63. And then that swoosh orbiting around the Earth and the Moon honors the Apollo program and future missions that will go beyond low Earth orbit once again. And then the atom is the crew's call sign, symbolizing the energy to resolve or orbit around a nucleus, or in their case, planet Earth. And another tradition that the astronauts and cosmonauts like to take part in is selecting what's known as a zero-G indicator to hang above them in the ceiling of the capsule. So we'll see this floating just above the center seat for Anatoli Iwanischin. Sometimes each crew member has their own. For this one in particular, Anatoli Iwanischin is taking what he's just calling Space Bear. It's a toy that will become very symbolic for him and is going to be a significant gift for his future grandchildren one day. So that'll be hanging inside the Soyuz capsule when we get those in-cabin views, and it's called a zero-G indicator, and we literally use that just to see when you start to see that float, and that happens right after they separate from that third stage. You'll see the crew exposed to microgravity. That'll be one of your best indications, because the crew themselves obviously strapped into those seats that won't be floating around quite yet. But another system check-in. We're not tracking any issues with the vehicle right now. We're 12 minutes, 25 seconds and counting away from launch. All right, so we are getting closer. You're 11 and a half minutes away from launch right now. All told, it'll be just under a 9-minute ride to orbit for the crew today. They're going to be launching at 3:05 a.m. Central Time, 4:05 a.m. Eastern. We'll be looking for a number of milestones on the ride uphill. One of the first major ones is going to be the launch escape system jettison. That comes about 1 minute 54 seconds into the flight. The first stage will cut off and separate those 4 strap-on liquid-fueled boosters at 1 minute 58 seconds. After that's done successfully, the launch shroud, so that area on top actually protecting the Soyuz spacecraft from aerodynamic forces on the ride uphill, will next separate at 2 minutes and 33 seconds into flight. The second stage will shut down at 4 minutes 37 seconds, separating at 4 minutes and 48 seconds. As that happens, the third stage will begin firing, doing what's called a hot fire technique. And again, when we get a close-up on the rocket, you'll be able to see a lattice work-like structure between the second and third stages of the Soyuz spacecraft, allowing that engine to fire while they're still attached. The third stage lower skirt jettison coming in 4 minutes 56 seconds, and then the final thing that we'll be looking for is going to be that third stage shutdown.
Launch lead, please close your visors. L-5 minutes.
And you just heard the crew told 5 minutes readiness. We are 10 minutes away from launch. They're going to close their visors now in their SOCA launch and entry suits.
Baikonur launch lead, we confirm our visors are closed. Irkutsk, this is Baikonur launch lead. Copy. And you are ready.
And we are under 8 minutes and 30 seconds away from launch. Once we hit that 7-minute mark, the pre-launch operations will be complete. We pretty much get into game time. That's when things will start to pick up. We'll go through a couple more manual steps, including inserting the launch key into the launch bunker, something that never gets old saying and is one of my favorite little tidbits about space flight, that they have an actual launch key. And they'll get that inserted at about T-minus 6 seconds, so we'll hear the call-out launch key inserted. You will be continually hearing an interpretation of the chatter between the launch conductors there in Baikonur, the team in Mission Control Moscow, and the crew. So you'll hear one voice, that's our interpreter's voice, so if it sounds like someone is talking to themselves, that is one person having both sides of the conversation. Here's a view of Chris Cassidy. Again, he's in the right seat today. This is going to be his third trip into outer space. We heard the crew call that their visors are closed, and you can see them there in their seats.
Irkutsk, this is Baikonur launch lead. We are at L-1 minute. And I will be reading out the numbers to you guys. Copy. We confirm L-1 minute.
And throughout the operations today, you're going to be hearing the Soyuz referred to as Irkut, I-R-K-U-T, and that is Anatoli Iwanishin's call sign, paying tribute to his birthplace of Irkutsk.
Irkut 1, everything's nominal on board, and we're ready for launch. We copy Irkut.
Iwanishin reporting everything nominal or normal on board the spacecraft, and they are ready for launch. We are 6 minutes, 22 seconds and counting away from liftoff.
Ключ на старт.
Key to start.
And we have confirmation the launch key has been inserted in the launch bunker that transitions the launch sequence into its automatic mode. So computers on the Soyuz rocket now taking command and stepping through pre-programmed procedures as we count down to launch. And just as a reminder, it's Anatoli Iwanishin in the center seat. He's the Soyuz commander. And then at the top of your screen is Iwan Wagner. He's in the left seat. He's the board engineer for today, essentially the backup role for the commander on board the spacecraft. And we'll also get views of Chris Cassidy. He's seated to Iwanishin's right.
Lines purge.
We are under 5 minutes away from launch. Combustion chamber of the engines being purged with nitrogen that helps to fireproof them, removing any vapors of fuel or oxidizer. We are now under 4 minutes away from launch. There will be a couple of visual indicators that can help you count down. The first umbilical tower will be separated from the booster at about 35 seconds before launch, but the second and final one separates at 15 seconds before launch. So once you see that second one separate, begin counting down from 15.
есть дренаж.
And as we come up on 2 minutes and 30 seconds, you just heard the ground propellant feed has been terminated, so fuel and oxidizer no longer being loaded into the vehicle.
Venting confirmed. Repress confirmed.
And right now the booster's fuel tanks are being pressurized. This helps to just optimize and really facilitate the flow of the fuel. Also helps add a little bit of structural support to the rocket itself. We are inside 2 minutes to launch. And at this very moment, the International Space Station passing just overhead. At the moment of launch, though, it'll already be 587 statute miles ahead of the Soyuz spacecraft, flying just over northeast Kazakhstan, but just passed right over pad 31 there at the Baikonur Cosmodrome. 1 minute and 20 seconds to launch. T-minus 1 minute.
Земля, борт.
Confirm. Space to ground.
And we see that first umbilical tower separating. That means we're 35 seconds away from launch.
Пуск.
Launch.
And there goes the second tower, so we are 15 seconds away from launch. We're going to see the boosters at the bottom light up, and as their thrust builds, it'll eventually overcome.
Intermediate.
Подъем.
Main one.
And liftoff. Cassidy, Iwanishin, and Wagner on their way to the International Space Station.
Секунд, посадка ракеты носителя в норме.
15 seconds into flight. All parameters are nominal. We confirm on board. All parameters are nominal. 20 seconds into launch. Thrusters are working nominally. The crew is feeling fine. 30 seconds. All parameters for the vehicle are nominal. The crew is feeling fine. 40 seconds into flight. Thrusters are working nominally and the vehicle is nominal.
Getting good continuous calls from the crew and the ground, everything with the vehicle looking nominal. The first stage powering the Soyuz upward, delivering 930,000 pounds of thrust from the 4 strap-on boosters in that single core engine.
Roll and yaw at 60 minutes into
The
flight.
yaw pitch roll, the attitude or which way it's pointing, hearing all those parameters or the status of it nominal.
70 seconds into flight. Everything's fine with the vehicle on our side. We confirm we're feeling good.
Again, this first stage going to continue to burn for just about 2 minutes into the flight. So just under a minute to go on the first stage.
90 секунд.
90 seconds into flight. Thrusters are working nominally. We confirm and we're feeling well on board.
Soyuz continuing to retreat from view, already traveling well in excess of 1,100 miles per hour.
We confirm.
And seeing the choreograph cross there as those strap-on boosters separate. The first stage separating right on time.
We also confirm lateral unit separation.
Their job done. They drop weight at an altitude of about 28 statute miles. The Soyuz traveling at about 3,300 miles an hour.
Vehicle stabilization is nominal. Everything's fine on board.
And with the first stage in the launch escape tower now jettisoned, being powered by that second stage, the core stage.
We confirm the jettisoning of the nose.
The shroud jettison and getting some views now from the Soyuz spacecraft itself, looking back towards the Soyuz rocket. You have a solar array right in front of your view there. The launch shroud has been jettisoned, so the Soyuz spacecraft now exposed.
70 seconds into flight. The vehicle is fine, and we are feeling well on board. This is Irkutsk.
Everything looking good with that core stage. The second stage,
190 minutes.
56 feet in length, 13.5 in diameter, has a single engine with 4 fuel chambers, provides between 178,000 and 222,000 pounds of thrust, depending on their altitude, for its 3 minutes and 28 seconds of operation. Again, the second stage is going to continue to burn. We're looking for second stage shutdown at about 4 minutes, 30 seconds after launch.
Parameters of the vehicle are nominal. We confirm we are feeling well.
секунд.
230 seconds into flight. The vehicle is stable. We copy and we confirm everything's nominal on board.
So we're a little over 4 minutes since launch. Again, we'll be looking for that shutdown and separation coming up in about 20 seconds. And as that separation occurs, the third stage will begin firing. It's called a hot stage technique. And that third stage will ignite while the second is still attached. And standing by for second stage shutdown.
Есть отделение второй ступени.
We confirm separation of stage 2. We see it as well. Everything's nominal on board. Copy.
And we have confirmation second stage shutdown and separated, and you saw a piece fly off. That was the third stage's lower skirt jettison. That was targeted to come off at 4 minutes 56 seconds into launch. We're already past 5 minutes and 20 seconds. Third stage now going to continue to burn until we're at our orbital insertion, so the initial orbit of the Soyuz spacecraft. That's expected to come in about 8 minutes and 46 seconds at shutdown, and then the separation coming just 4 seconds later.
Into flight, and the thrusters are working nominally. We confirm, and everything's nominal on board.
So right now the Soyuz being propelled into orbit by the single engine of the third stage, providing 67,000 pounds of thrust, going to continue to burn until shutdown, coming in just under 3 minutes from now.
360 seconds into flight. Your pitch and roll are all nominal. Copy, and we are feeling well on board.
Still getting great updates from the crew. Anatoli Iwanischin talking to the ground. Everyone feeling well on board. Yaw, pitch, roll. The engines all performing nominally. That's the word we want to keep hearing. It means everything's going normally according to the plan. 6 minutes 35 seconds since liftoff.
390 seconds into flight. All control systems for the vehicle are working nominally. And we confirm we are fine on board. Copy.
Четыреста
420 seconds into flight. Your pitch and roll parameters are all nominal. Copy. We are fine on board.
And we just passed 7 minutes and 30 seconds into this flight.
450.
Spacecraft velocity right around 13,500 miles an hour.
Вас понял, Иркуты.
Confirm. Irkutsk inaudible. We copy Irkutsk.
Четыреста семьдесят секунд.
470 seconds
Работает нормально.
into flight. Third stage thrusters are working nominally. Everything's well on board.
Четыреста девяносто секунд.
490 seconds into flight. The vehicle is stable.
And we're standing by. Our next major milestone is going to be the shutdown of that third stage coming in about 20 seconds from now.
On board. Thank you for your support.
510 секунд.
510 seconds into flight.
Контакт отделения.
Your pitch and roll are all nominal. Get ready for the stage separation.
So we'll see the engines cut off, and once the vehicle separates, it usually gives the crew a bit of a jolt. Then the Soyuz will be flying free. We see the third stage separating there. And we can see it dropping away now.
Поздравляю.
Third stage separation confirmed.
And congratulations, guys. You are in orbit.
ЦУПу Москвы.
I am handing you over to the mission control, Moscow.
And as we can see on the video here, that solar array deployed. We have confirmation the one on the other side also deployed, along with what's known as the appendages. All of the antennas, so the rendezvous and the communication antennas, all deployed on the Soyuz spacecraft.
Then we will be standing by for the first measurement, and then please proceed to page 39.
Я Иркут-2. Готов дать первый замер.
MCC Moscow, this is Irkutsk 2. I am ready to give you
1456. Давление ИСА 805. Давление БО 827. Давление при приборном отсеке 849.
I am ready.
So we'll stick with these views in the Soyuz as long as we still have them. They'll begin passing out of the range of the ground stations where we're able to get this video transmitted down eventually.
And I am
But everything looking like they're good in a good initial orbit. The orbital parameters, so looking at both speed and then their apogee, perigee, the orbit that they're in, looking good after a successful separation from that third stage. So with that, Chris Cassidy, Anatoli Iwanischin, and Iwan Wagner are in outer space.
23rd, 327.
For Cassidy and Iwanischin, this is their third trip. For Wagner, his first. The crew now going through a number of their initial orbital checkouts. Again, one of the major things that we always look for is getting those solar arrays out, which provide all the electrical power to the systems on board the Soyuz spacecraft. Also, the antennas being deployed, and those were all confirmed to be done